Let's get more on this from political analyst Marisa Lourenço, who joins us from Johannesburg. Marisa, very good evening. Thanks for speaking to us. What do we know at the moment about vote counting in that general election?
Hi, thanks for having me on the show. So about an hour ago, the National Electoral Commission of Angola called a press conference. It announced that it had finished counting 97% of the votes and that the MPLA had come out with 51% and UNITA was in second place with 44%. So what this means essentially is in Angola's electoral system, the MPLA has a parliamentary majority, which means it is allowed to now install incumbent President Lourenço for his second term. The remaining 3% that needs to be counted wouldn't alter this vote really in any way. What's going to happen next, most likely, of course, is that UNITA is going to approach the National Electoral Commission and then the courts to challenge the result.
Why are they challenging the result, though?
So there have been quite a few concerns about the transparency of this electoral process. There has also been a parallel vote that has been going on, this has been carried out by a civil society group. But what this has shown is that actually UNITA appears to be the one that has actually come out on top of the MPLA. And what UNITA will try to do then is it will point to some of the flaws in Angola's electoral system. It will look at certain polling stations if there were accusations of vote rigging there. And then it will also use this parallel vote count to try to put its case forward. It's not likely to be successful, though. It's well known that the Electoral Commission and the courts are partial to the MPLA. But nonetheless, we do think UNITA will still go to try to draw attention to what it feels has not been a fair election.
Well, talk to us about how this parallel vote works. I'm surprised to learn of it. That's the first thing. And the second thing is in opinion polls in the build-up to the election, it seemed pretty clear that UNITA was way ahead. And it was expected that this would be one of the closest elections conducted in Angola. So I think for MPLA to have 51% and UNITA a significant less number of votes would potentially draw some questions.
No, it is still actually one of the most contested elections because if you look at 2017, the MPLA got 62% of the vote, and then if you look at 2007, it got over 70%. So the gap between UNITA and the MPLA has actually been closing in the past decade, and I don't think that has really come as a surprise. In terms of the parallel vote, how that works is once voters go into a polling station and they come out, someone from a civil society organization will ask them who they voted for, and then they will record that. Of course, not everyone participates, but a lot of people do. And that's really how they've been able to get a parallel vote that is expected to closely mirror what the election result would be. And then in terms of opinion polls, yes, they did put UNITA in front of the MPLA. I think this showed UNITA's growing popularity. It's definitely changed. It's modernized over the past 5 years. It's no longer seen as this party of war veterans. It's very in touch with the urban youth. The only thing with opinion polls is they tend to draw in supporters of the opposition and not supporters of the ruling party. And in that way, they're not totally reliable. I mean, I think if we look at opinion polls, they did put UNITA very, very far ahead, which even if there has been a lack of transparency in these elections, I still think that would have been unlikely for it to get 60 to 70% of the vote that these opinion polls suggested.
Now, you obviously talk about possible contestation of this vote. What I'm keen to find out is observer missions. Was SADC present? Was the EU present? Were there any observer missions that would support potentially what is suggested that this election may not have been free and fair, or it might have been rigged, as they suggest?
So we've got election observers from SADC and from the AU. There was a bit of contention about the MPLA or the government not really allowing in the EU. But I think what we've typically seen with election observers in a lot of other sub-Saharan African countries is they typically just rubber stamp their elections and then they move on. We saw it in Malawi in 2020 when the EU called it free and fair. And then we saw Malawi's own constitutional court annul the elections. So I don't think that they'll have much of a bearing on this. I think that the fight will mostly be domestic. It will really be UNITA and civil society trying to draw international attention to this and trying to put pressure on the state to be more transparent.
Marisa Lourenço coming to us from Johannesburg. I appreciate your time this evening. And as Marisa suggests, the MPLA appears to once again have won the election in Angola, but confirmation of those results will be coming through as we proceed.